This video will either age like fine wine or age like milk. If you don't know, Hive basically just announced that they are going to turn Treasure Wars into Bed Wars. Now, this is causing a lot of controversy, and I think this should be talked about because this is a very important topic, and I think it also says a lot about where the Hive community is at right now. And as a Hive creator, as a YouTuber, I think I should provide my own insight on the topic because I think it's very unique from where I'm coming from. So I actually think this is a good thing. I know this will fall under the hot takes section for the Hive community. However, for the content creator community, like everything I've seen from content creators, this includes Danny, Evident, Potato, like every content creator you basically watch in this community is saying this is a good change. And I will explain why this is a good change. So first off, I think this is a fresh start. Some people are going to hate this. I just want to address the counterpoints first, but I want to provide a positive spin for those that need it, okay? The scrimming community and the sweat community is going to probably hate this for the next few days. It's going to be a topic of conversation. It's natural because in the scrimming community and the competitive scene, just your stats are really important, right? And I don't want to be one of those people that's just gonna straight up say like people don't like scrimmers, because outside of the community that mentality exists. Okay, I do want to be like clear on that mentality exists, and it exists for a reason. Okay, people have like they have bad memories of scrimmers, and they have a lot to do to clean up that reputation. So I don't want to generalize every scrimmer here. I do want to give at least some hope, but I do think that if you are a competitive player, this is a good change. Despite you losing your stats, I think this is a very good change. You get more gameplay variety, right? Both of those are very good things, especially if you're competitive. And if you're competitive, I also want to bring this up. A lot of the competitive players' complaints is that the Hive is stale. One of the ways you don't make it stale is by changing a thing like Treasure Wars and giving it seasons and doing a lot of it, right? So I think that'll help with the staleness. I think it'll make it more playable. I think it'll be better, at least in that aspect. I think Treasure Wars probably won't change much. Bed Wars is probably just gonna feel like Treasure Wars, so we shouldn't get too in a frenzy about whether or not too much is changing. I think it's just a name change, and you change the treasures and you add seasons. Well, that's a lot of things, and I do want to give Hive credit here, so I don't want to negate that because the Hive does work hard on their updates. And as for the Hive, I think this also helps with the Hive. Obviously, this is one of the most clear as day, easiest changes you could have made that would be a slam dunk. Okay, this is. If you wanted change and you wanted the Hive to be better, you would like this change. You would like it. Because this is going to improve so much for the Hive. So much. You want to talk about, like, the server growing? Or, how about this? Not growing. You want to talk about the Hive is dying, okay? The Hive is... It's never been dying. I just want to say... I want to say that first and foremost. But even if it were... Even if it were dying, let's play devil's advocate. Why not change Treasure Wars? Why not change something that fundamental and turn it into Bed Wars? Turning it into something cool. And on top of that, for the Hive, this is even better. Because from a content creator standpoint, you have to know what marketing is. And honestly, if you're marketing, right, and you're the Hive, you're like, how can we draw more players to our game? Instead of calling it Treasure Wars, let me name it Bed Wars, right? Super simple change. For content creators, they're gonna love it, especially the smaller content creators. They're gonna love that change because it allows them to do more with content and reach a wider audience. If you put Bed Wars in your title and you could still get the Hive audience on top of getting a wider audience, everybody would have been doing that back in like 2020, 2021, which is honestly, that is where I spent most of my time as a smaller Hive creator. Now I'm considered one of the bigger ones. I consider myself to be still small because I see myself on the YouTuber level. But if you're a small Hive creator and you put Hive Bed Wars in your title, it's going to do well. It's just automatically, I think it's going to do better than if it were called Treasure Wars. Because one of the things that was really weird for a lot of Java players is like, oh, this is so different. And that, like, if stuff is more familiar, that's better for marketing. That's better for the game. And this is good because the Hive has some high pixel level influence on the Bedrock scene. Bedrock server creation stuff, I mean, it doesn't really, I mean, it does well on YouTube, but you can't really, like, what are you going to make on the servers itself right now? If I were to make a PvP video, which I do, right? What are you going to make a video on in the game? You're not going to make much. And that ties back into my point of bedwars being new. But if you're the Hive and people are searching up bedwars and finding your server, and because you have that high pixel type influence, right? That, oh, what the heck? That influence is going to really come in handy because what do people want? What do people want? They want bedwars, right? So how do you give bedwars to them? You just change treasure wars to bedwars. There is no good bedwars in, like, on Bedrock right now. Name me one good bedwars. One. That isn't on Nether Games, because Nether Games just, like, takes from Hypixel, okay? So, bedwars is really needed, and I bet you one of the key terms on YouTube is MCPE bedwars, because what do people on MCPE and on Bedrock want to do? They want to play games that people on Java do. That's why Minecraft is parodying, you know? They want everybody to play together and to feel together. So what better way to do that, for the Hive, at least, why not capitalize on that by just making it bedwars? It's such an easy change that, like, it changes so much, yet so little. I don't even know if my points make sense half of the time because I'm just sort of spewing out every thought that comes out of my brain. Potato Pie brought this up in a content creator Discord that I'm in. But Bedwars on Lifeboat averages 1,000 players with 5k total players. So that's like 20% of everyone playing Lifeboat is playing Bedwars. And Lifeboat isn't even like a popular server. It's just not. For the Hive to make a bedwars, that's gonna do so well. Like, they're not even making a new game. They're just marketing it differently. And that's so smart. I want to focus more on the community aspect on the whole, because I do think that focusing too much on content can probably lead you guys off of my points. So I want to focus a bit more on the gameplay and what Hive players benefit from. So Hive players, as I said, you get more variety, right? Hive will be less stale with this update. If you don't want the Hive to die, and you don't want the Hive to be stale, then this update just makes sense. It just makes sense because you're getting updates, right? That's the first thing. We weren't getting updates for quite some time. No offense, Hive. But on top of that, you're not just getting an update. Seasons will be like consistent updates for bedwars, which is awesome. And like, knowing the Hive, right? They like to put their own twists on things, right? There's a lot of things on the Hive that don't need that twist, right? You have duels. I don't know about you, but duels on the Hive is one of the, I think that is the worst thing the Hive has ever done. I mean, you cater to familiarity by calling it duels, and you have UHC duels, but you just, like, fumble the bag on the quality. Like, you don't even make it something big. But what this update can do is you can take something like duels, you could take something like that, and then you could actually turn it into something. And I know that, like, the scrimming and competitive community kind of scares the Hive, and I think it's also kind of scares a lot of Hive players, because that, like, I don't want to taint the reputation, but it's sort of the reputation at this point that scrimming and competitive players are just kind of like, it's just not a good place to be in the community. I think that that community has a lot of potential to be redeemed. But I do think that that community will benefit from something like a duels. But not even just them. I think everybody would, right? Like, if you have more games, the better. I think that's really important. If the server is truly dying like people say it is, then I don't understand why we have to complain about this update. Honestly, I think one of the worst things about this community is that we focus too much on complaining. I don't want to like focus on like toxic positivity either. I do think we should be criticizing the Hive for where they should be criticized. However, on top of that, I think we should also give the Hive credit where credit is due. And I think a lot of us are overreacting because we see our stats are going to go away. Treasure Wars is going to go away. Oh my god, this can't be good. But in the long term, I think this is a really good update. I think this is one of the Hive's better decisions. If you disagree, that's perfectly okay. But those are just my thoughts. Those are just my thoughts as a creator. This is also just, like, not my structured thoughts, so it's kind of scatterbrained. But, like, okay, let's do this. Remember the lifeboat stat I brought up? There are currently 8,000 players on the Hive, okay? Only 900 of those players are playing Treasure Wars. All the numbers here add up to 7,461, and when I added them up, Treasure Wars was at, what, 913? That's only 12% of the player base playing Treasure Wars. I think if you change Treasure Wars to Bed Wars, you're gonna get more players. How many of these players on Sky Wars are playing Sky Wars because they just know it from Java, you know? So if you change this to Bed Wars, how many more players do you think you're gonna get? That's just my theory. I think that number will increase. If Lifeboat has 20% of their players playing Bed Wars on their server, like, that's not even, like, you know, like, if you get 8% more, this is, like, the most popular game on the Hive, according to, like, this, which is awesome. That, I just hit my microphone. I'm so sorry. I apologize. But, like, that's awesome. Why wouldn't we want that for a server we consider to be dying? For content we consider to be stale? If everything is stale and everything is dying, why are we so reluctant to change? I don't understand. This is something I brought up with other people. I call it the Hive cycle. We just like to be in this constant cycle of just complaining, and then somebody else will say something, and then people will stop complaining, and it will just keep going. I hope we can break it. I'm doubtful we will, but this is a good update. This is a good update. Let me know what you think. And yeah, that's it.